Hey everyone, welcome to Removing Roadblocks to Getting Published. Our speaker today is Margot Starbuck, who will present the 3 big roadblocks to getting a publisher to say yes, and 1 bonus roadblock. In other words, writing an excellent book proposal. So Margot is a graduate of Princess Seminary and Westmont College and is passionate about effective communication. She contributes to our industry in many different ways. She serves publishers as a collaborative writer and ghostwriter. She's ghostwritten many really cool books. She helps others tell their stories, and she serves publishers and writers as both a literary midwife. You can ask her more about that. And helping others to birth their books, and also as a book doctor, stepping in when manuscripts need resurrection. Margot is also an author of her own books. Her first book, The Girl in the Orange Dress, Searching for a Father Who Does Not Fail, was awarded the Advanced Writers and Speakers Association's Best Nonfiction Book of the Year. She's also the author of 6 other Christian living books. Not Who I Imagined was a Selah, is that how you pronounce that?
Selah. Mm-hmm.
Selah Awards finalist for Christian living. As a speaker, Margot enjoys connecting with audiences on campuses and at conferences, including, of course, Writing for Your Life, Spiritual Writers Conferences. And as a partner with Writing for Your Life, Margot offers several types of editorial, book proposal, and consulting services. Check out her page on the Writing for Your Life website. So after Margot's presentation, you can ask questions by using the Q&A feature on the webinar screen. Just scroll over the screen. There'll be a little button at the bottom that says Q&A. You can type in your question, and I will ask Margot when we can. Okay? So take it away, Margot.
All right. Hi, friends. It is a pleasure to be with you today talking about book proposals because that is my favorite. And specifically, I want to flag for you the 3 big roadblocks to avoid when pitching your book proposal to a publisher. You really could have the most amazing story, fitness plan, spiritual secret, but if it's not communicated effectively in the book proposal, it won't be published. So I want you to know what publishers want to see. I'm going to share my PowerPoint screen with you. And all right, Brian, can you confirm that it's happening?
It looks perfect, Margot.
Awesome. You see the 3 roadblocks. Friends, publishers are making publishing decisions based on 3 big criteria. And everybody in the industry kind of knows this, agrees on it, but these magic words are from Chad Allain, who was the editorial director at Baker Books and now is like a consulting book guru. Here are the 3. The first is that publishers are looking for books that have a strong book concept, and we'll unpack that a little bit today. They're looking for books that are attached to a large platform, and don't panic, we will get you through that one as well, and also books that are well written. Obviously, the job of your book proposal is to earn and keep readers. And so I'm going to be giving you tips for how your book proposal can most effectively do that. You might feel like it is the publisher's job to read your book proposal, to give it a good reading, but it's not their job. What they're thinking about is finding quality books to publish that are meeting the needs of their readers. So when they're looking at your book proposal, they're just like us. They're getting Facebook notifications and like chimes from their dating apps. So I really want to see you capturing and keeping the publisher's attention. Old newspapers, right, had these big headlines to capture readers' attention. So this kid on the corner who's selling newspapers, right, it's this big font, and the job is to grab the attention of the person who's walking by. So this fellow right here, he is the publisher who is reading your book proposal. And if you hear me saying use very big font on your proposal, that is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that a winning book proposal makes it impossible for the reader to stop reading. That's what you want to do. You want to capture their attention. All right. These are the big 3, and we will take one at a time, but these are the 3 things that publishers are looking for. The first is a strong, unique, winning concept. The second is platform. And the third is great writing. So we'll start with the first one. And that is communicating clearly what it is that makes your book unique. That is your concept. It's like your unique spin on the topic. You may have heard of the fabled elevator pitch, right? You have like 30 seconds in an elevator to kind of tell somebody important, I don't know, an editor at HarperCollins or Oprah. You have 30 seconds to tell them about your book. So let's say you're at a Writing for Your Life conference. You're in an elevator with me and your dream editor, and I say, hey, meet my editor friend, tell her what you're writing. If you want to capture and keep this editor publisher's attention, you have just a few sentences to communicate clearly the premise of your book. So if we're thinking of the book proposal as kind of a micro version of your book, then like the elevator pitch, the hook, that is like the micro version of your book proposal. And so, right, all of them are trying to do the same thing. And when you're in this elevator and you have your chance to give your elevator pitch, I'm going to say it's a little bit like a Goldilocks situation. And what I mean by that is that it could be that you say too little. Those are words without impact, right, where you kind of lose the attention of the person you're speaking with. Or you could say too much. You could use too many words, complicated words, words with too many syllables, and you're also going to lose your audience. The way you present your project, your book proposal, needs to be just right. So let's say you're in this elevator, and you could say, I'm writing a book on marriage. Oh, gosh, right? There's no impact. There's nothing memorable. There's nothing distinctive. It just makes me want to take a nap. There's nothing that makes someone want to know more about your proposal. But what if you said, you know, when they ask you what your book is about, the singular secret to a vibrant marriage, right? Oh my gosh, there's your title, there's your hook, there's your elevator pitch. All of a sudden, that editor you're talking to cares about what you're writing, right? Because they're curious and they want to know more. So even if you're not in an elevator, I want you to think about your book proposal in the same way. You need to communicate very succinctly what the book is about so that the publisher wants to know more. And this is important. I need you to hear that publishers, editors have seen countless proposals for my hard childhood and how God healed me. Body image, really, you're okay, you're good enough. Love your neighbor. God frees you from shame. And don't hear this as a negative, because in fact, I've written all of those books, as have so many other people. So you need to know that publishers have seen so many similar proposals, and yours really needs to stand out. Stephanie Smith is an editor at Zondervan, and she publishes SLANT newsletter, kind of coaching you how to bring something original to the table. And it's funny because I know Stephanie believes at one level that there's nothing new under the sun, that all the ideas are already out there. That's sort of sad, right? Why does she even go to work? But she adds, she says, now quick, here's the good news as chaser. You can't author an original idea out of the void, but you can make new connections between existing ideas. Creativity is not about inventing something from nothing. Creativity is about becoming a master of the remix. And to do that, she says, you need to offer a new angle, right? This is the big win in your proposal. An angle is this. It's a fresh frame for a timeless truth. It's creative, unexpected, a pinch provocative, and able to power up vital conversations people are compelled to join. It's the signature of great writing. And it makes all the difference in standing out beyond overdone, underdeveloped, dime a dozen concepts, right? So that's the win in your book proposal. It is your unique solution to, whatever problem you're addressing. And so while you may be really jazzed about your idea, I want you to bounce it off a lot of people. I want you to ask others, have you ever read a book like this? Have you read 30 books like this? You know me. What's unique about what I'm saying that you've not heard before? You've got to package your message with a unique angle that is really offering something fresh to readers. And one of the ways you do that is in the titling of your book. And publishers often change the title, but the one you're presenting in your book proposal, a general rule of thumb is that the title communicates the premise of the book and the subtitle communicates the promise. I realize as soon as I say that, you were thinking of a million exceptions, which is true, but this is a good rule of thumb. So I want to give you a few examples. Battlefield of the mind, winning a battle in your mind. I know immediately the premise and the promise of that book. Boundaries, when to say yes, when to say no, to take control of your life. That's compelling. If I buy this book, I can take control of my life. Priscilla Shirer's Discerning the Voice of God, how to recognize when God speaks. The premise and the promise that makes me want to buy that book. So I'm going to say you create a concept roadblock for yourself if you're not offering that fresh perspective, if your pitch is boring, if it sounds like 200 other books that have already been written. It's a roadblock when you make it so complicated that the one thing you want to say in this book is not clear to the publisher. You need to be able to articulate that clearly. So give it a title, a subtitle. If you give it a title or subtitle that's bland, nondescript, if it's too clever, unintelligible, you're creating that first roadblock, that concept roadblock for yourself. So the way around this roadblock is to give the publisher what Stephanie Smith calls a fresh frame for a timeless truth. The second thing publishers are looking for is a strong platform. I'm wondering if everyone out there knows what platform is, and I'll tell you, if we were in the same room, I would look at your face, and when I asked that question, if you began pulling your hair and gnashing your teeth, I would say, oh, that writer knows what platform is. And if you continued to have just a pleasant expression, I would say, oh, wow, this one might not know yet. So I want you to hear that your platform is the way that you are already reaching readers. That's the win. And so there's different ways to have platform. Some writers have a platform because they write a popular blog. For others, they might have a strong social media following. Somebody else might be speaking at 30 women's conferences every year. Somebody else might have a podcast that everybody's listening to. Or somebody else might be the executive director of an international organization. I hear how those are all a little intimidating. So me, I am a normal person like you. And when I went to a writers conference in 2006, I learned this business that I had to build a platform. And in the first year after this writers conference, I pitched 300 articles. I have a log that proves that. It doesn't mean that I wrote 300 articles. It doesn't mean they were even all unique. It just means that when one of them was rejected, I sent it to the next place. And by the end of that year, I had been given the opportunity to write for Today's Christian Woman and a bunch of other magazines. And that convinced a publisher that people cared about what I have to say. So that's just a real practical way that I began to build my platform. I want you to hear that there once was a day in publishing when if you were an awesome writer, you could hole up in the woods in a cabin, knock out a manuscript on your typewriter, and the publisher would magically make that book sell. But that day has passed. Today, every publisher needs to see that you're building a platform. And as I say that, I'll add that big publishers really need to see that platform, whereas smaller publishers have a bit more flexibility to take a chance on an author they love, a book they love. So smaller publishers can be a little more flexible with platform. As you're learning about platform, oh gosh, sorry about those words at the bottom. I want to recommend Michael Hyatt's book, Platform, Getting Noticed in a Noisy World. That will unpack it for you, give you lots of ideas. And here's my advice. My advice for you is to find a way to build your platform that is life-giving for you and not death-dealing. What I mean by that is if you hate the sound of your own voice, do not launch a podcast. If you vomit before public speaking, don't pitch yourself as a speaker. I want you to find a way to build a platform that makes the most sense for you. You know what? There are websites, books, more webinars to give you great ideas on how to do this. So you are creating a platform roadblock for yourself if you don't demonstrate that you will block when you don't offer creative marketing ideas about how you can reach new readers. And I want you to hear this. If you have no platform, I want you to consider pausing in the process of moving forward with your book. And I know once you've put a lot of time into the book proposal, you've got your momentum going, you don't want to do that, but it might be a really good investment to pause and for 6 months or 12 months to work on your platform. That could be a big win. Friends, the third thing that publishers are looking for is strong writing. And I recognize that it is absolutely banana crazy that the last thing I am mentioning in this trio is good writing. But in the flow of a book proposal, the first thing, and this is as the book proposal kind of unfolds, the first thing that a publisher sees is your concept. And then they're going to look at your platform, and the very last thing they will be looking at is your writing. So if the concept isn't compelling, they will never get to your beautiful writing. So let's say the publisher has seen that you have a strong, fresh, unique concept. But let's say the next two, what if this publisher has to choose between platform and beautiful writing? If she has to sacrifice one, which will it be? And I'll just say this is kind of the horrible bind of editors today who love great writing and want to publish great writing because they have to sell books. So I'm wanting you to hear that a publisher's decision is always this complex one. And so the more that you can, one, show how your concept is fresh and edgy and novel, that is going to remove the first roadblock. Convince a publisher that you have a platform to influence others. That will give your proposal more weight. And 3, demonstrate that your writing is compelling. And I just want to take the last few minutes before question and answer to suggest ways that you can be producing valuable, engaging writing content for publishers. This is what is going to make your writing strong and valuable to readers and to publishers. The first is that you have a clear premise, and that means that that single driving premise of the book is kind of woven and knit throughout all of the chapters of the book. You produce good writing when it is strongly organized. So that means that each chapter is saying one thing and the reader is able to identify what that one thing is. That's how you know that, that you've done it well. I want you to be producing content that meets a writer's need. It speaks to her circumstance, it kind of touches her where she's at, and it fuels the conversations that readers are already having. That is the win. Let's say I am an editor at your dream publisher and I ask you, who is the audience for your book? Do you know what is always the wrong answer? I will tell you. The wrong answer to who is your audience is everybody. I need you to be able to describe for the publisher, for yourself, who your audience demographic is. I want you to know how old they are, if they're male or female, their education, are they married, are they parents, their favorite websites. Editors and publishers want to see that you know exactly who your audience is and that you're writing to meet their needs. So in your book proposal, it might be corporate. You might describe this group of people that you're writing to, or maybe it's singular. Maybe there's one person that you're writing to. That is such a smart strategy. Whether it's Doubting Debbie, Lonely Larry, Gifted Grace, you know who that reader is, and maybe even like put a picture of them on your computer so that you're always writing to meet that reader's needs. Friends, writing to one person is the win. I heard this from my friend Jonathan Merritt, though I know it's not unique to him. If you write a book for everyone, you end up writing a book for no one. But if you write a book for someone, right, that one person, you end up writing a book for everyone. So know who your audience is. Also, give the reader practical application. When she's done reading your book, she knows how to apply it to her life. She believes she can live differently and kind of has a plan to get there. She can see that in her mind, how it applies to her. I want to encourage you to share yourself with the reader. The reader wants to connect with you, and when you're vulnerable, when you share your own story, that gives the reader an opportunity to know you. I want to see good storytelling in your proposal, in your sample chapters, stories that are rich and well told so that the reader can't put your book down. That when the author shows instead of tells, that is the big win. And finally, I'm hoping that you've created a message that spreads. So when the reader puts the book down, she wants to tell her friends about it over coffee, social media, ideally by buying them the book. And I'll say that when you're so close to your writing, it might be hard to recognize these, just like it's hard to edit your own work. So if you have a sharp writing friend, give her this list and let her weigh on whether or not you have met these marks. So you're creating that third writing roadblock for yourself if you offer a publisher writing that's not organized or focused, that's not meeting the needs of the reader and helping her implement those in her life. And if you're offering writing that is not thoughtful and beautifully and well done. So I want to give you, let's see, nope. I want to give you a way around this roadblock, and that is to improve your craft. Writing for Your Life webinars, attending writers' conferences, joining a writing group to get feedback on your writing, exchanging your work with one other writing friend, right? That's the way that you improve your craft. So these are 3 roadblocks. The first is an overdone or an uncreative concept. The second is an absence of platform, or you're not growing your platform. And the third is writing that doesn't serve the reader. And because we did promise a bonus roadblock, that is telling and not showing. Friends, the #1 rule of good writing is show, don't tell. And I mean that from the email that you first send to a publisher all the way through to your sample chapters, I want you to be showing and not telling, to be creating a picture instead of telling a publisher what you're going to do. I want you to show them. That is the way over the roadblocks. The way that you do that is by showing an example. You can do it by using dialogue, and that's even in your cover letter. You can do it by telling a story, giving statistics to show why this matters, illustrating results, helping the reader flesh out application, and revealing how the reader's needs are being met. That is the way that you show a publisher that there is a need for this book. These are the 3 biggies that publishers are looking for. And, oh, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. When you nail those, you've successfully overcome the 3 roadblocks to getting your book published. Brian, I'm ready for question and answer if anybody else is.
Okay, good. Well, why don't you first remove the sharing? Turn off the sharing. There we go.
Did it? Okay.
Awesome. And so thank you so much, Margot. I think as you mentioned at the beginning, those are 3 areas I think that several folks know that are common, important areas as viewed by publishers, but I think all the practical information that you put behind that was really useful. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks.
So as I mentioned, we have time for Q&A, and we've got a couple of questions that have come in. So Margot, let me read those and ask you them.
Sure.
First question says, what are ways we can build a platform for our new book without giving away the premise of the book?
Oh boy, I wish we could talk back and forth. And I'm wondering why you wouldn't want to give away the premise of the book. You know, I've worked with an author before, and I'm reminding them, so this is me coaching an author as she's writing the book that she has a contract for, and I'm reminding her, like, the premise is the reason that a reader has bought your book, and this writer was telling me she was kind of building up to something really big at the end, and I said, do not build up, because you've lost your reader by the end of the book. That premise, right, your unique idea needs to be knit throughout the whole book. And so I'll bet there's more behind your question, and if you want to send it in to Brian, that would be awesome. But I do think you want readers to know what your unique premise is, and that's not something you want to be holding back as you're drawing people into, to be interested in the book.
Yes, let me add on to that, and then also, if you do want to, type in more information into the Q&A to expand on the question, that'd be wonderful. I know that several people have asked me in the past about, they're worried about exposing part of their book, on social media, things like that, both from a copyright standpoint as well as kind of like, letting the cat out of the bag type of a thing. My advice, and that of everyone else I've talked to about this question, has been don't worry about it. I mean, the first objective is to attract people to your work. Build your platform, as what Margot was saying. If you don't do a good job of doing that, and you don't put your best foot forward in doing that, then you're never going to get a book that's successful anyway. Whether you self-publish or you're traditional publish, you need a following. So that, let's build the platform, build the following before we worry about what goes into the book.
Yeah.
Secondly, nobody's going to go back and read all of your Facebook posts over the last year or what have you. I mean, people don't consume book type content in that manner. So, again, I feel pretty strongly about this, and everyone else I've talked to has said, don't worry about quote unquote giving away your content, because you need to do that in order to build a following. So the person that asked that question now said, I'm working on a project that would be for a different audience than I previously written for. How can I attract those potential readers without letting the story out? So, again, it's always difficult to speak kind of in generalities, but, whatever targeting that you're doing for kind of audience A versus audience B, speak to the target that you want to go after. If the target that you want to go after is something different than, maybe who your previous followers were, your previous book was about, things like that, what's the Wayne Gretzky hockey analogy? Go where the puck is going to be, not where it is right now or what have you. So, again, I'm kind of a big proponent of speaking to the future. But Margot, what do you have to say?
Yeah. And I'm thinking that if you're trying to keep two audiences, it's a difficult road to navigate. And I would encourage you, as Brian's saying, what is coming next, that's the audience that you want to focus on. And I've heard that sometimes a writer will want to cross over from nonfiction to fiction or the other direction, and the audience you've built doesn't necessarily go with you. So so as you think about the thing that you're called to do, I agree with Brian. Look at what's coming and then put your energies there. It really is hard, I feel like, to be cultivating both audiences at the same time.
So another question that's come in is the famous, how large does your platform need to be?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I wish that there were magic numbers. And now I'm wondering if there are. I don't think there are. I think that the publishers are looking to see that you're connecting with readers. So you might have like good numbers of followers on social media, but you know what? If the publisher looks at your posts and nobody's engaging with those big numbers don't necessarily matter. And maybe you don't have big social media following, but you wrote an article that goes viral, that becomes very big. You might have a publisher contacting you. So you know what? There's so many measures. And all I can say is that you want to find some way to demonstrate to a publisher that you are reaching readers now. And I also want to say that you can be creative in your book proposal in offering ideas of ways that you will reach readers in the future. So that doesn't mean, I might do this or I could do that. Only write it down if you're really going to do it. But I also think that publishers respond to you actively taking a role in building your platform and giving them creative ideas about how you would get this book out into the world. Brian, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah. So as I said, I've heard this question so many times, and I've asked it myself many times.
Yeah.
Publishing industry people, acquisitions editors, publishers, literary agents, and generally they always skirt around the question, right?
Yes.
Well, it depends. Okay, and I can understand how that is absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
I did get one answer, a specific answer from a literary agent who Margot and I know very well, very highly respected person, and somebody during one of my conferences was just like pushing this question, and she finally answered. But before I tell you what she said, let me preface this a little bit, because one of the things that Margot said earlier in her presentation is extremely important, which it depends on who the publisher is. Okay, so if you're a big five publisher, meaning HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, one of their imprints, their expectations about platform are considerably greater than, smaller, more modest-sized publisher. Okay, so a literary agent generally tries to sell book deals to large publishers because the literary agent gets a percentage of the book deal. So, in order for them to make a living, they have to sign pretty good-sized book deals, right? So again, this answer I'm going to give, take it in the context of a successful literary agent who's selling big deals to big houses. What she said was that none of the publishing houses that I deal with would even look at a platform of less than 10,000 people.
Mm.
And that, and to qualify the 10,000, she kind of said it was like, think of it as like a combination of your, social media or email list, whatever. So, there may be some overlap within that 10,000, but basically that's what, her answer, generally speaking, to that question was. But as Margot said earlier, the smaller publishing houses are more willing to go with someone who has a smaller platform or shows evidence that they can significantly grow their platform. They're still going to be looking at that question big time. And side note, this is one of the things that I help authors with. I was involved in the Frederick Buechner Center. That's how I got into the Christian publishing space in the first place. I helped him significantly grow his platform. I've done that with other well-known Christian authors. I've also done that with, several people just getting started. So, so that's one of the things I can help with. Enough of the sales pitch. Another question is about handouts for the presentation. There will be a recording of this webinar that will be, on the Writing for Your Life website that anybody can reference anytime in the future. But Margot, is it okay?
Absolutely. I'll get that to you, and we can make that available as well.
Okay, awesome. So Margot will send that to me. I'll get that posted to the website as well. Margot and I are always glad to interact with folks that are looking for advice. And, Margot does a phenomenal job of working with authors and coaching them. So, I really suggest that you look at her website, her Wordmelon website, or her page on the Writing for Your Life Writer Services site that lists all the different wonderful ways that she can help you. So anyway, thank you so much, Margot.
Thanks. And all the writers out there, we are cheering you on. We want to see you succeed. And we're in your corner.